I think it's a, apt reading for today. I mean, I was profoundly shocked to see the shooting at Donald Trump's rally yesterday. Yeah, almost made me want to cry just to see violence again erupt within a political context. And I think that all we do here really is about thinking about how we can stop that happening, how we can make our personal contribution, whatever it can be, to lessen the possibility of things like that happening. And I think that it never goes away, and it's just so devastating whenever we see it again. And here at the chapel, there's no coincidence that the chapel was originally called the Prince of Peace. And we just hold that, as we talk today, as we think today, and lean into it as well. So I just want to really just acknowledge that. And I think it's, in a sense, no coincidence that we're doing a series on harmony. And this is the third that we're doing on harmony. And, I can't think of a better subject really to be doing. Definition, I'm going to do a little bit of a précis. Definition, harmony is the sound of things that go together well. The sound of things that go together well. People singing in harmony are in tune with each other. I'm just going to move this. Harmony is a noun that describes an agreement such as a feeling, sound, a look, a feel, or a smell. And Jan Garrett, who's here today, she's a singer big on harmony, she defines harmony as a unified whole in which all individual pieces are working together in dynamic balance to create an interdependent, elegant, and synergistic composition. Each part retains its own integrity while blending with others for the good of the whole. Thank you, Jan. And in psychological terms, harmony is a positive state of inner peace, calmness, and balance, as well as the feeling of being in tune with the world. We've looked at the idea that to create harmony in our lives, we have to create harmony within ourselves. To create harmony around us, we have to create harmony in ourselves. And to do that, we have to identify with a sort of still point within ourselves. Now, I've got a little show and tell here, which is bound to go wrong, but I'm going to give it a go. So, this is the classic example of, when you have a still point. There we are, I didn't go wrong. There's a harmony there, everything there. This is like the cosmos in the world. Everything is going at all around, and like the world is traveling around. But because there is a centering of harmony, then it stays still. And we have to create that still point in a turning world. If you're on one of these circles, you're being flung about. I was flung about last night. You're flung about, but if you're not, then what happens is you have that still point within ourselves, and in the place in our soul where the divine meets with us. That's what that is. It's the place in our soul. This acts and enables us to appreciate the wholeness of everything and the harmony that comes from that. And we have to find that perfect peace in ourselves. This is what we did in the previous ones. And if you miss them, then if you're new, the red little tab in front of you, on the chair in front of you, will tell you where to get the podcasts and the previous. If you look on YouTube, you just get the message. And if you want to be on our mailing list, it's the blue one in front of us. We have to find that perfect peace, and then the harmony of life is able to sound through us, which is where, I said last week, the spiritual practice comes in. Whether it's a quiet time reflection daily with the Bible, or walking in the mountains, or a time on the cushion doing some form of meditation, that peace doesn't just come. You have to get yourself in the game by putting up the sails so that the spiritual wind can catch it and you can steer a path that goes towards harmony. It's the peace within that leads to harmony. There's a lovely quote from the Tao Te Ching which says, She who is centered in the Tao can go where she wishes without danger. She perceives the universal harmony, even amid great pain, because she's found that peace in our heart. And it really is a challenge to find that peace in our heart with all the great pain that we see around ourselves. That first point in developing harmony is to find that peace within our heart, and then that allows us to go out into the world without danger, perceiving the universal harmony. I mentioned last week, Einstein said he believed in a God who reveals himself in the harmony of all that exists. Not a God that interferes in life, but a God that reveals him or herself in the harmony of all that exists. But I want to acknowledge, it's quite a big move, to get to that place of harmony, to find that peace within ourselves. It is a lifetime's work. I know that's true for me. Ever since I was little, I didn't want, I wasn't looking for jobs and careers and boats. I knew that I wanted peace. That was the thing when I was a teenager and growing up. I always knew that is what I was looking for more than anything else. I had a deep down desire for peace. And for me, that meant a number of things, that desire for peace. It meant a number of things. It meant peace of mind, equanimity, that state where you're not continually grasping for things or worrying about things, worrying about what happens in your life, that equanimity. There's a whole sermon series on that in itself. And then there's being at peace, with oneself and one's place in the universe. And the spiritual life really is a drive to find that. It's a drive to find that place. And I think that finding one's place in life, the peace in one's life, I think to find your purpose in life is the holy grail of all existence. I think that is the holy grail, to find one's place in life, to find a peace in oneself. Being at peace in our minds with who we are, where we've come from, what we have and what we don't have. Being at peace with the circumstances of our life and what our purpose in being here is. All of that, which leaves us with a sense that it describes in the Bible as the peace that passes all understanding. I think it's just a fantastic expression. It's not a peace that's worked out. It's a peace that passes all understanding. And for me, that's always been proof of the existence of God. The existence of a peace that is not worked out, that one can tap into, that passes all understanding. And that includes peace with not just our minds, but peace with our bodies. And it includes peace with our eternal spirits. We often fight our bodies when they don't conform to what we want them to be. We're always at war on one level with our bodies. And we fight with God, bargaining for this or that level of enlightenment. If I do this, God, will you do? The church is continually bargaining with God. If I'm a good person, will you be good to me? I'm reading the book of Job at the moment. It's a whole thing about bargaining with God. Is it a good idea and is it not? And by the way, it's not. There's no point in bargaining with God. God doesn't care. All of that has to go. And you might ask then, where does that leave us? Where on earth does that leave us? What else is there to do except, trying to bargain and get it right? Actually, when you're at that place where you've let go of that, it leads us unencumbered. And when we're not worrying about our baggage, when we have a chance, then we have a chance to look out and make our contribution. When we're not worrying about what we've got, what we haven't got, or when we let that go, when we're unencumbered. And I think that's a pretty good definition for enlightenment. Everybody's trying to decide what enlightenment is. I think enlightenment is to be unencumbered by our baggage and to be able to go out into life and make a contribution, unencumbered. I'm big on a little book called The 10 Oxherding Pictures. It's a sort of Zen book that describes the spiritual journey. I've done a course on it, so if you want to look on the website, you can see the 10 lessons on it. But the 10 and the last one is the one about, when the bloke's enlightened. The last stanza, what it's like to get to the point, the end point when you're enlightened. And this is the description in the 10 oxen heading pictures of the enlightened one. His thatched cottage gate is closed, and even the wisest know him not. No glimpse of his inner life are to be caught, for he goes on his own way without following the footsteps of the ancient sages. Carrying a gird, he goes into the marketplace. Leaning against the staff, he comes home. He is found in the company of wine-bibbers and butchers. He and they are all converted into Buddhas. Bare-chested and barefooted, he comes out into the marketplace, daubed with mud and ashes. How broadly he smiles. There is no need for miraculous power of the gods, for he touches, and lo, the dead trees are in full bloom. It is a description of a man in harmony with the universe. He has found that peace within himself. No glimpse of his inner life are to be caught. And, I don't know if you noticed that fantastic parallel with Jesus. He is found among wine-bibbers and butchers. And who was Jesus found among? Prostitutes and sinners. It's the same sort of thing, of going out, the joy flowing from it. Joy comes from him and flows from him. For he touches, and lo, the dead trees are in full bloom. As we look out into our world, we see plenty of dead trees. Trees characterized by the deathliness of, the shooting last night. That's a dead tree, that is. Of people bombing children's hospitals, a dead tree. People doing things because they think the ends always justify the means. People ignoring the groaning of the planet under man's greed. That dead tree that allows 90 million refugees to be herded from one unsafe place to another, blaming them for the situation that they had very little hand in creating. Of the blight caused by corporate greed and unthinking development. These are the dead trees that we are confronted in our world. And our job is to put our hand out and touch them and have them bloom again. And we work on ourselves for that reason. We are here for that reason, to find out how to do that. We go on the cushion, we read the Bible, we do that for that reason, so that the dead trees might bloom. Not to get enlightened, but to make a contribution to the world around us. But we're so imperfect. That's the problem. All of us. We're so imperfect. None of us are Jesus. None of us are Buddha. Or even the man that, whose thatched gating is closed and who goes in his own without following the footsteps of the ancient sages. He just goes out. None of us are like that. We're imperfect. We're not there. Quite obviously. We doubt. We don't see ourselves in this way. We stumble along doing our best to keep upright and not spill the milk too often. Yeah, so that's how we live our lives. But that is what we have to be in harmony with. We have to have an acceptance of the fact that we are struggling. It has to be okay. Someone came up to me the other day and said, can you be in harmony when you're in grief? And yes. The harmony. You have to be in harmony with the difficulty that is going on. We have to know that this is it. And this is where we're at. And we have to be at peace with that. That we have to get to that place of peace. To try our best on the cushion. Not to beat ourselves up about the fact we're not Jesus or the Buddha. There is a peace in accepting that. And we have to find that peace too. And in the peace that I've found in my life, I find that I have to live with his imperfections. To see that is exactly who I am. I have to keep reminding myself of those wonderful words of James Findlay when he came here. He said, all things considered, for myself, my marriage, my family, all things considered, what is the most loving thing that I can do? And we have to ask ourselves that in the situations that we're in. All things considered, given everything, what is the most loving thing that I can do? And to say that brings us to the peace that passes all understanding, where we can begin to move out from ourselves and to create harmony around us. Because one thing we have to realize is that despite what it seems to witness on the news every day, despite what it was to witness the news last night, harmony is the state that the cosmos continues to exist in. Harmony is the state that the cosmos continues to exist in. In fact, the word cosmos comes from the Greek word cosmos with a K, that's how it's spelled in the Greek, which means the order of the world. It's the order of the world. The world is ordered, from the biggest to the smallest. The planets are all in order and move in an orderly fashion. The biggest and the smallest. Atoms move. All the atoms in this room, in our bodies, are all moving in an orderly fashion. The whole universe exists in a state of harmony. Our role is really to join that order. That's our role in life, is to join that order, to become part of the harmony that is at the center of all things, to become part of, that God, the harmony of all that exists. In other words, to become part of God, to become part of God. But that is for a couple of weeks' time. In the meantime, it's important to see that all things exist in a state of harmony, but we do not perceive it as such. We do not perceive it as such. We perceive, on the television last night, we perceive the disharmony. That is what we mostly see. We rail against it. She who is centered in the Tao can go where she wishes without danger. She perceives the universal harmony, even amid great pain, because she has found the peace in her heart. We don't do that. We do not feel we can go out and do what we want without danger. And we do not find peace in our hearts amid great pain. So I believe our next step is one of perception. It's about perception. Once we've found that peace within, even if we have to find that peace in our flawedness and our imperfection, once we've found that, and when we're able to rest in that peace and set our baggage down, then we look out into the world. And what we tend to see is the disharmony. I see it every day and, anguish about it. But that is to focus on the wrong thing. Yes, there is pain. Yes, there is disharmony. But the real point is that the underlying ground of being is harmonious. This disharmony, the disharmony that we see on the news, this disharmony are like plumes of spume that come off the waves as they move towards the beach. There's plumes of white spume that come off the waves as they come towards the beach. We focus on the white bits rather than the magnificence of the swelling ocean that is beneath. Spume is a consequence. This is the definition of spume. Spume is the consequence of an interaction between the breaking of the waves and the dissolving of organic matter. The result of these mechanical and chemical processes is a fluffy like spume. We look out into the world and all we see is the spume of the breaking of humanity as it is thrown against life. That is not to say that this pain isn't real. It is. And our hearts do break for it. But to focus on that pain and to try and affect it is not the way of harmony. It is to identify with, if you do that, if you focus on the pain and try and change it, is to become part of that disharmony. What we have to do is to focus our attention on the harmony that exists. And when we focus on that, then all things change. We change as we grow in confidence that the harmony exists within us and is around us. Those around us change as they begin to see harmony is really the dominant state of being. And disharmony begins to lessen as humanity begins to perceive reality at a deeper level. It has to be perceived at a deeper level. All that stuff in the Sermon on the Mount, love your enemies, and all that stuff that people go, priests always say, that is the hard teaching. It's very difficult to. No, it is about seeing the deeper level. It is about seeing the harmony that exists. What's important is to perceive that and not the disharmony. The disharmony is temporary, unnecessary, and a distraction from the ultimate state of being. People create disharmony for their own ends, to feel better about themselves, to blame others, to exert temporary material power, but it has no real depth. They say that, I love this, they say that spirituality is like a swimming pool. All the noise comes from the shallow end. Spirituality is like a swimming pool. All the noise comes from the shallow end. And this disharmony, this spume, I'm on the last page, don't panic. This spume of life is really the shallow end. And those propagating it are shallow thinkers. You can see it in the way that many world leaders act. We have to identify not with the shallow disharmony, but with the deep harmony that everything exists as a part of. And that is true of our personal relationships, of our community life, of politics, of religion, of international relations. It is also true of the news we consume. It is concerned with the shallow and not the deep. And nowhere is it more true, I think, at the moment, than in our relationship with the planet, where for the sake of our immediate convenience, we're willing to mortgage our children's future. A deep, harmonious relationship with the planet sees the cycles that our Earth is going through, listens to the protestations, and realizes that there is a deep harmony at the center of the planet, and that if we ignore it, then the planet will restore harmony by getting rid of humanity. We have to identify with the harmony, and we have to become a part of it. And the first step is to see the harmony throughout our world and to realize that it has the power to be able to both save humanity and stop the suffering that we see around us. We are looking in the wrong places for answers. We have to go deeper. And when we do that, and when we choose to participate with harmony, we actually can become a part of it. To participate with harmony. And that's what I'm going to be talking about next week. We always like to, we're going to have, in a moment, John Stewart has his moment of Zen, and we're going to have our moment of harmony in a moment, but I always like to give people an opportunity to come back at me at anything that I've said, or make a contribution or a point. If anyone would like to, just put up your hand, and you have an opportunity for the microphone to come to you. And if you want to say something online, you can just text me, and I should get the message as well. Would anyone like to say anything? Yes, Liz. Thank you. I like the way the kids come up to watch. That was great, wasn't it? They don't normally do that, by the way, Adriana. Yeah, Liz, go on.
Nicholas, I like that you bring up the idea of a dead tree.
Yeah.
And what I'm learning every day is that no tree is dead.
Yeah.
And there is harmony. Because of the people, or the animals and the bugs and insects. So every dead tree does bloom again.
Thank you, Liz. Fantastic. Anybody else? Should we have our... You want to say something? Yeah, go for it, yeah.
I really appreciated what you said about, that we have the choice, we have the agency to live into whatever level of consciousness we want to. And, it's not like, we've got that agency, and I just love that.
Yeah.
There is a deeper harmony that we can choose to live out of, and that's kind of, I feel like, our calling of all communities like this, to do that, it's like a responsibility, like a cosmic responsibility, really, that we have. And the other thing I was going to say, I've lost it. Anyway,
Our
but
ability
that's-
to self-reflect is a great responsibility. It gives us the opportunity in our self-reflection to be able to look at life and to live life from a deeper place. And no other animal has that ability. Most animals just live in harmony. And we're given the opportunity to self-reflect. And we can choose where we go. That is the choice in life.
And also, it was
Yeah.
that you're not, that we're not here for our like enlightenment, whatever we mean by
Yeah.
that. I loved what you said, that we're here to make a contribution. Like, what is our contribution?
Yeah.
And can we find it and do something with our one wild, precious life, kind of thing.